Hello, Algebra 1 students. If you're looking at Fry's test, the Chapter 2 test, I want to read this and give you some accommodations, including clarification. So let's get started. For each of the following questions, answer in complete sentences. Be clear and precise in your answers. You could pick any three of these. You don't have to do all five. You could pick any three of these and just do three on this first page. Number one, what is the goal of solving any equation? In other words, what are we trying to solve for? Think about that. Put down your best answer. Pause this video as you go forward, so that you can, catch up, because I'm just going to read right through it for you. Remember if you're answering this one, what do you call that letter that we have in an algebraic equation, and that's, you're going to need to use that in your answer there. Whenever there's a letter in an answer, that's what we're trying to solve for, right? So, describe that. Number two, how can you check your answer to any problem that involves an equation? Once again, it involves that and it involves your answer, what you do with your answer. You go back and what do you do with that? That answer to number one with that part in your answer. What do you do with that? Okay. Number three, what are the three types of solutions that are possible when solving equations? Give one example of each of these solutions. So, you could just to talk about the different types of solutions, what do you call when any number any number that you could possibly think of would work in that equation? Okay, that's one type. Then there's another word. There's no number that you can ever think of would ever work in it. And then there's an answer or two where it's just going to be one answer is going to be for the variable. So what do you call those three? Give you some clues there. Number four, part of a bottle of water has been consumed. Write the steps needed to determine the percentage of water that has been consumed. So what would you do to figure out what percent was used? And just describe that. Be clear. Number five, in the process of solving an equation, a student noticed that the variable was eliminated. The student concluded that the equation must have a solution of infinite solutions. Is the student correct? Why or why not? So in other words, you came across something like 15 plus 3m equals, 3m minus 6. And then when I'm getting my 3m's, together, they're canceled, I end up with 15 equals negative 6. This person said it's infinite solutions. So is the student correct? Why or why not? Okay. Moving on. For number 7, for the following problem, solve each equation. Show all the work needed to solve the problem. So remember, you're going to use the distributive property. So you're going to take 10 times x. You're going to take 10 times 3. And then you're going to rewrite that equals 30. And then solve for x. Number 8, you're going to take 4 times negative 8. Put that with an x. You're going to take 4 times 5. Write that down. That's going to equal negative 32 minus 26. Solve for x. Number 9, you are going to get y by itself. You can see that I was talking about this with some students. I subtracted b from both sides, and then so I ended up with y minus b equals mx. Then I divided by x because I have m times x. So this is going to give me what? What would you put here? This is supposed to be an x here. I divided by x. So m would end up equaling what? We're doing proportions, so you're cross multiplying, so your problem would end up looking like this. Use the distributive property and then solve for b. For number 12, I took some of the people that I was helping earlier with this test, pretty far on this one. I have to use the distributive property for both sides, and then I take you as far as 97 equals 3r. So what would that r equal? Number 13, what percent of 80 is 4? So, the way I do it, what percent of 80 times 80 equals 4? So what would you do for that? Okay, so you're going to, divide by 80, divide by 80. 14, what is 12.5% of 104? I changed 12.5% to a decimal. And you're just going to multiply these two together to figure out what that is. And then you have 150 of what number is 34? 150, so 1.5. I changed that to a decimal already. I moved the decimal 2 places to the left. And I'm going to divide both sides by the 1.5 to get n by itself. And I'll tell you what n equals. Number 16. 13,000 is deposited in a savings account that earns a simple interest rate of 6.5% each year. If the money was left in the account for 7 years, how much money is now in the account? So, remember you have I equals PRT. So, they want to know, what the interest is, and then you add that back to the principal. So I equals the 13,000 times the rate, which is a 0.065. I changed it to a decimal for you, and times 7 years. Okay, figure out what that is, and then go back and add it to the principal so you figure out the total amount that's in the bank. For the following problems, solve for the unknown. A tennis racket normally costs $65. The tennis racket is on sale for 20% off. What is the sale price of the racket? Okay, so you could find, 0.20 of 65, whatever that equals, and then take the 65 minus whatever that answer was, and that'll give you your final answer. Number 18, water covers about 11,800 miles of Florida, which is about 18% of Florida's area. What is the total area of Florida to the nearest 1,000 miles? Okay, so if that is 18%, so 11,800 is 0.18. That's 18% of what number? Okay, so you would take this divided by that. To find the total area, you just round it to the nearest 1,000 miles. 19, a particular model rocket kit uses the scale of 1 to 144. The actual rocket is 168 feet tall. How tall will the model of the rocket be when it's completed? The model, compared to how tall it is. So the scale, like think of a map, like 1 inch equals 144 miles or something like that. So we have, it's 1 to 44, so 1 to 144, sorry. Okay, it's actually, so we don't know what that is. The model rocket, we don't know what it actually is going to be, but the real thing is 168. So you multiply, cross multiply. So you'll get 144n equals 168. So just take that 168 divided by 144. You should get an idea of how big that model will actually be. 20, a professional model maker is making a giant scale house of a house fly. okay, to be used in a science fiction film. I want to make sure I read that right. An actual fly is 0.2 inches long with a wingspan of 0.5 inches. The model for the fly for the movie will be 27 feet long. What will the wingspan be? So we have 0.20 is to 0.5, or 0.02 is to 0.05, as 27 is to what? So go ahead and cross multiply. So you have 0.2 n, and I have 27 times 0.5. Okay, figure what that is, and then divide it by 0.2, and that should give you what the wingspan would be. And then 21, a florist is making centerpieces. He uses 2 dozen roses for every 5 centerpieces. How many dozens of roses would he need to make 20 centerpieces? Okay, so 2 dozen is going to be, 24. I guess I could use 2. 2 is to 5 as what is to 20. So you have 20 times 2, which is you have 40, equals, and then 5x, 5 times x is x. So just solve by dividing by 5 on each side. That will give you x. Okay. Hopefully this helps, and good luck on this. Is it a quiz or a test on this test?